So there was that time where I was asked to do an article for a thesis student, and she wanted me to dress up in my traditional clothing, so she had a picture for her article. And I was waiting at the bus stop, and this lady approached me and said, "You know you shouldn't be wearing that around here." And at first I was very taken aback, and then I explained what it was for, because even though there's nothing wrong, I always feel the need to justify myself. And I don't know why that is. I think it's just to bring awareness to other people that it's actually not that bad, like nothing's going on. And so, I explained it to her, and I was like, "Oh, this is what it's for school, and like it's not a big deal, whatever." And then she had made the comment that, "Oh, well, if you're gonna live here, you should know our rules," or something like that. And then I explained to her, I was like, "Hey, like I actually was born here in Halifax, like I am from here." And then her comment was, "Oh, well, then you should definitely know better." And so situations like that definitely deter you a little bit. And it's a really sad thing, because like I said, I take a lot of pride in my culture. I take a lot of pride in representing my culture and heritage. And for people to look at you and say, "We don't accept that," or "Oh, that's not what we want our society to be about," it's definitely a turnoff.
In bigger cities, such as Toronto or Vancouver, people often say, "Where are you from?" Will people feel uncomfortable by it? Yes. So it's important to be mindful of how the other person's responding. However, where it's most troubling is not for the immigrant. Most immigrants realize that they have immigrated to a new country. Where it's really hard is for the children of immigrants who were born in Canada and who feel that they are not recognized as being part of the Canadian identity or Canadian zeitgeist.
I do notice a spectrum when it comes to discrimination. There are small things like people asking you where you're from, and you'll say, "Oh, I'm from Canada." And then they'll be like, "No, but I mean, where are you really from?" I don't think it comes from a place of discrimination or purposeful like racism or anything like that. I think more of the times it comes from a place of ignorance, and they just don't know. And to them, it seems like a perfectly innocent question.
Where we're still slow is the general population accepting with open arms and open heart the admission into the Canadian family of people who look quite differently than Canadians do, traditional Canadians do, and who sound different and dress different and eat differently and pray differently.
So they are always, newcomers always in this struggle between the two worlds. It's more so, I think, for the second generation, the children of immigrants, in that kind of tension between the expectation of their parents to keep their heritage, the traditional values, and at the same time feeling that they do fit in, they are Canadians.
There are little subtleties in both cultures, and I don't think they're like major scale things, but little things like that do add up. And that does sort of make it hard for one culture to accept the other, or even living on both sides of the cultures, it makes it hard to decide which one you're going to adhere to and what you believe. And sometimes you do have to throw both out the window and be like, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. There is some sort of common ground when it comes to growing up as a second generation Canadian, especially I think in the school setting and what you experience through school. I think a lot of our experiences are very similar, if not somewhat the same. What makes me most proud of my Indian heritage is that we're very proud in displaying our culture, but we're also very interested in other cultures, and we're very welcoming of other cultures. So if I bring home a friend who's from Iran or from Ireland or wherever, my grandmother will get immediately excited and start asking a bunch of questions. Like, oh, do you have this in your culture too? Do you have this in your culture? What kind of food do you guys eat? Like, she gets so excited just to learn about other cultures, which is saying something because she grew up in India for a majority of her life. She's only been in Canada for about 21 years, as long as I've been alive, and she's about 80. So it's still new to her, but she gets so much thrill and excitement from learning about other places.
In terms of testing whether or not somebody is more Canadian than another or more Quebecer than another, this is a futile exercise. Do I drink Tim Hortons? Rarely. Do I like donuts? Sometimes. Do I use maple syrup? Almost never. Am I less Canadian? I don't think so.
My mom definitely does feel Canadian. She was born here. She was brought up here her whole life. So she definitely does lean towards the more Canadian culture side of things. My dad, he worked very hard to be here and to establish himself here and to bring all his family here. So I feel like he definitely does feel Canadian, but I don't think it's towards the same extent because he also does take a lot of pride of where he came from. India is what built him, essentially. I think in his view, it's more of, I brought India to Canada. And that's what makes him Canadian, if that makes sense. My happy future in the short term, I think would consist of exploring something maybe outside of the medical field that I'm currently in, having the opportunity to sort of have more of an idea of what it is that I personally want to do, and kind of figuring out how to do that without feeling like I'm breaking expectation altogether. It's trying to find that happy medium, and whether that's me conforming, which I feel like I'm really guilty of and I've done a lot up until this point, or me trying to educate and make my family also understand the other perspective. And I feel like that's the direction that I now kind of have to go in.
If so many roadblocks exist for immigrants in the pursuit of the life they want here, is it worth it?
Yeah, it's worth it. Right now we don't have place we lost the country. I can say forever. Our people will not come back again to our country, to this area.
Despite all the obstacles that my dad faced, I do think that he's very proud of being able to move here and establishing himself here, and then also sharing that experience with the rest of his family and bringing everyone else over here to Canada so they could also kind of bear the fruits of that labor. It was worth it.
If I can say something to Nova Scotians, is that what they are going for is the right thing, and that's why I stay. They are very involved in their community lives. They are people who care, and I don't know what made them the way they are, but definitely there is an atmosphere here of caring, and people want better.
I'm proud of this point. The majority of our friends, they accept us. They open their arms. And we became Canadian Syrians here in Halifax. This is a good point.
The vast majority of Canadians are pro-immigration. If you look at most polling, 70 to 80% of people, super majorities, support immigration, support diversity.
Despite these little subtleties and stuff in cultural recognition or religious recognition, Canada in general is a very inclusive country. It's why a lot of people choose to immigrate here for sure. But there's definitely more diversity in Canada now than there ever has been, I think.
It's a cliche to say that the world is small, but with each passing year, it gets smaller and smaller, and borders are going to become an anachronism at some point in the future.
Everyone, has, something nice, they like about this country. I think most immigrants are happy with the choice they make. It's not perfect. We don't live in a perfect world.
The system has become obtuse and rigid and disrespectful.
A way to improve the Canadian immigration system is definitely being more human, treating humans as humans and not as numbers. If you got a little mistake, they can call you. They can let you know. They don't have to reject anybody, like people just for like a little mistake in a paper.
When we do a refugee hearing and we succeed, there is no there's no feeling in the world that equals that for me. There's no, when the hearing is over, and and if we're fortunate enough to have a decision rendered right at the hearing, and the judge, the board member says, I find that you are a refugee, welcome to Canada. And I look at the face of my client, and I watch that face change from stress, concern, worry, fear, and that all of a sudden that disappears, that dissipates, it goes away, and there's this moment of realization that the war is over. The case is won. I am not leaving Canada.
The province and the regulatory bodies are very much understanding, and they are working on different ways of making it easier for international medical graduates and others, of course.
If we find a solution or find a way to the process become faster, to be a doctor here in Canada, this will be okay. We can help them at hospital.
So my dad came here. He took a lot of pride in getting his first job in Canada and doing something for the Canadian community. And my dad always had the opportunity to leave, to go to the US. He's always had job offers like that. But he took a lot of pride in the fact that this is another part of what made him him. It helped build him. And to be able to give back to the community that gave so much to you is very important to him. And I think it's very important to a lot of immigrants.
I want love. I want to see so much love around me, and I want to see, I want to make people happy if I can. And yeah, I want people around me that can make me happy too, of course.
Here in Canada, I find another meaning for life. They support me and support my family. It's really meaning to me here in Canada.
What's more important to me is making sure that Canada, that Canada's heart and soul is open to those in need and open to those who want to be here and help us build the nation. And then when people get here, we behave like we want them here because we're surely going to benefit from them. And we've reached a point now where we need them at least as much as they need us.